Welcome back. This is I'm Randy Barkley, and this is Jeremiah Lee, and we're going to kind of continue our conversation about Thanksgiving and what it means for us personally. But hopefully, some of the things we're talking about, it'll give you some time to kind of reflect on your own personal life. So again, I think we talked about the freedoms that we have, but let's kind of transition into what's really important to me as family. And of course, every family dynamic is slightly different. And my remembrance as a child and what that experience was for me as a child with my immediate family, as well as my cousins and such as that, it was an incredible time. Everybody has a different experience, but our community that we're in right now is really part of our family, isn't it?
Yeah, that's right. For many years, we've done Friendsgiving.
Right.
It was like Thanksgiving, but it was just with a group of friends. And how wonderful the community, the family you're born into, and also the community and the family that you kind of create as you go through life. Right. And I remember years ago, when we started doing Friendsgiving with folks, we were living in a different city where most everybody there were transplants. Most people, that was not where they were born. Right. They were there working, it was a big city. And doing a Friendsgiving that moment was really fantastic in the sense that most people were not going home for Thanksgiving. And so they didn't have a family to go back to at the moment, or just don't have a family in general that they would want to go back to. So it was a moment of saying, okay, this is a community that we care about each other. We support each other. We're grateful that we get to share life with one another. And that's been meaningful in our lives. And we're in a season now where we're living close to family. And so we have family here that we live with. And most of our friend groups also have family as well. So I think everyone's going their own places for Thanksgiving. But yeah, I mean, the value of being with people, the value of being known and knowing people and being cared for and caring for people, it is immense. And I think it's hard to overstate that even. And I think we take it for granted so regular. We notice it when folks age a bit and they no longer have that same community. Right. They've outlived their peers, or they retired from a job.
They outlived their family.
That's right. They retire from a job and they don't have that same everydayness with people. And for some folks, that's the dream. They wanted to get to retirement. It's wonderful. There's others that they realize how valuable that, Bob in accounting, how valuable he was, that he was there. And it's even odd to say, but just that community of people who rally around each other is meaningful to us as humans.
Yeah, I mean, again, I mean, we've always made the comment, I don't want to be a person who just drives down my driveway, opens up my garage, goes in, shuts the garage door, and don't know what's going on around me. We've been fortunate enough to be in our neighborhood for over 30 years, so we've got to know all of our neighbors, and it's really more like COVID, for example. COVID hit, and we have a couple of our neighbors are elderly, and we reached out to them in the midst of COVID when it was raging and everybody was fearful of any kind of personal contact. We reached out to them and said, do you need anything? We're going to the grocery store. Do you have anything at the pharmacy that we can pick up for you, whatever? And it was heartwarming to see kind of the interaction when you've known people. Everybody has their own lives. They all have their own circumstances, but it was really nice to be able to interface with them on that way. And I think this is a season when that really is an important time to kind of emphasize, so to speak.
Reach out. I remember we had some friends when COVID, we were in the midst of kind of the lockdown, you always kind of checking to make sure everyone's okay. And there's someone who dropped off like a care package for friends, but it was like, some coloring books for the kids, some goodies, but like a roll of toilet paper was in there. It was just a funny comment of like, that was never a valuable thing, but now I was like, just in case you need it, like here's something we care about. But yeah, I mean, that's so vital. And for me, even just personal note, my family, I grew up in a large family where we were all together, cousins and aunts and uncles and grandmas and grandpas, everyone was there. And over time, people have moved away, people have passed away. And so it's a smaller, but now the generations have turned over to where now, instead of being the kid generation, I'm now, I guess, the parent generation. That there's grandparents, there's my generation, now there's a whole slew of kids that come underneath.
So you're providing, like for us, we were the center of the celebration for Thanksgiving and Christmas. Now, because of our age and the age of our children, we're no longer the center of the meeting. We go to them. It's easier for my wife and I to go to them rather than them all coming to us. So it is a transition. It's not bad. It's just a transition, right?
It's just different. Yeah. And I went from having all my grandparents to just one left. And now years ago, my grandmother was the host of all it. Now it was my mother for years, and now they're coming to our place. Yeah, it's a and I think people can see loss there. They can also see continuity there. They also see the beauty of a new generation of my, 4-year-old is interacting with my grandmother. and that is a beautiful new thing of those souls touching each other. I remember my grandma used to tease me, but years ago I told her she needed to stay alive long enough so my kids could beat her. And when I had all my kids, she was teasing about that, be like, well, I made it. I haven't made it. It's like, well, you can't go yet. She's in good health at the moment, but it's interesting that dynamic of having the multi-generations of what each person's going to live through, what they're exploring, what they're adventuring through.
Yeah.
It's a beautiful thing.
So family goes to fellowship, and we've kind of talked about that a little bit. We think it's really important that community, however you develop your community, we think it's really essential for first of all, the emotional stability of somebody, that they're interconnected with other people that care about them.
Yeah.
And it may not be their direct family, but it could be like through the church or other communities that they are involved. It's really hard, for us when we see a client that's kind of isolated.
Yeah. And for folks out there who don't have a family that they're excited about,
Right.
Some people do, some people don't. That's a dynamic of life. But you can also create community. You can create family, and through churches, through community involvement, organizations, there are so many ways to reach out and to find connection. I agree. I think us as the human condition, we struggle in isolation, and to not do that. So I think folks who see Thanksgiving as a hard time with family, or even a hard time remembering loss.
Right.
I remember someone remembering their mother and knowing that they're not there anymore, and how difficult that is. But also as an opportunity to create for future Thanksgivings a community, and whether that's through religious organization, whether that's through a community organization, whether that's the neighborhood, whether that's through, but to invest in people, invest in being honest with people, invest in being enjoying people. And being vulnerable. I think it's something to be built into, and it's not just going to spring up on its own, but it's worth the investment to build relationships.
Yeah, and I think a comment to me one time is, if you want a friend, you have to be a friend.
It's a good comment.
And I think people just think they're kind of entitled, so to speak, or they're just saying, I'm here, so therefore I should have something done for me. Well, in reality, that doesn't work that way. People will avoid you. And if you want to have friends, then you have to be a friend. What does that entail? There's obviously a lot of factors that go into that. You don't want to be intrusive in somebody's life, but being somebody who is dependable, who cares for the neighbor more, as they want to be treated just like they want to be treated themselves. I think it's really critically important that in this time of Thanksgiving, celebration of not only just the abundance that we've had through the year, but also as we move into this time of Christmas, sharing gifts and stuff. I have no problems with that. I think it's just a sharing of what's been given to you, and you share it with your family and friends and such as that.
Yeah, the generosity. A lot of people look at the end of year to say, I want to be generous with my purpose and my time and my finances. And we'll talk more in future episodes about finances, what to do at the end of the year. But I think just a moment to take a pause, to be grateful, to be thankful, and to consider for each person, what they're living in and how grateful they can be in about that situation.
To grow up with an attitude of gratitude is really important. And I think you need to look at the things that are positive in your life, not emphasize the things that are negative in your life.
Yeah, it's a good moment.
Until next week, folks, may you grow in wisdom and knowledge. Thank you for listening.